You can also listen to us on SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/theclockcleaners. Hey guys, Keith here with another edition of Global Force Wrestling Impact Review. So this week we have the Gauntlet for the Gold, where last week Alberto El Patron was stripped of the World Heavyweight title, and Jim Cornette announced that there was going to be a gauntlet match to determine the new champion. So let's get started. So we opened the show with footage of Jeff Jarrett and Dan Lambert arguing. Apparently this was taped last week after the show. So basically, as long as Jeff Jarrett is in a company, the spotlight is going to be on him in some shape or form. I don't understand why, but for some reason that's always how it is. Next we had Jim Cornette talking to the entire roster. He's basically saying that no one's going to have a free ride here. He said you're going to earn your paycheck. He also goes on and says that basically if there's no BS, there'll be no problems with me. Takes a couple of cheap shots at El Patron, saying that he doesn't want anybody's face plastered all over TMZ and giving bad publicity. And he also said that he fined Bobby Lashley $5,000 for showing up late. So I guess he's really trying to make this Cornette's GFW. As we see throughout the night, he has a lot of interaction with the guys there. So we get started with our first match, which is OVE, Ohio versus Everyone, which they debuted last week on Destination X, versus the Heat Seekers. So this was kind of basically a replica of last week. They won this match very quickly. They actually didn't receive any offense from the Heat Seekers, so they OVE had the upper hand the entire match, which again they won with that same move they used last week, the double team, one go high, one go low. They had a few spots, but I don't know if I'm sold on them yet. GFW seems to be pushing these guys as the next biggest tag team, so I think once they have some formidable opponents, maybe we'll actually get to see what they can do. This was actually the only match of the show besides the Gauntlet for the Gold, so there was a lot of storytelling basically going on from events that happened in the past. So up next we had Jim Cornette in his office talking with Eli Drake and Chris Adonis. Eli is basically kissing Cornette's ass because he doesn't want to be number one, and Cornette tells Eli that if he gives him a different number, that he has to leave him alone. So he agrees, and Cornette ends up giving him number 2 instead of number 1. So, pretty funny. Up next, we had a Taryn Terrell interview with Jeremy Borash. He was basically asking her why she attacked Gail Kim last night. She pretty much said that Gail left the company high and dry, and that she's basically here to help retire Gail Kim. So Terrell came out basically wearing lingerie, and I feel like this is something that GFW really needs to get over. And I mean, it's 2017. Women's wrestling has come such a long way in the last 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years, and I feel like they should be more focused on the wrestling aspect of it rather than the cleavage. I don't know, maybe that's just me. But so next we have another backstage segment where Lashley and Lambert go into Cornette's office wanting answers on, well, actually I should say they go into Cornette's office and he wants answers on why they choked out the referee last week. So Lashley goes on and complains about not being given the title like Bruce Pritchard had said he was going to. But Cornette says, you get to earn your title in the match in the Gauntlet tonight. And Lambert goes on saying that Cornette's lucky to have an athlete like Lashley because they're treating him and using him so badly. So it seems like Cornette's pretty much being an authority figure here, and I don't know how I feel about that being a spotlight. I mean, it could just be since they're introducing him and they want to get, everybody used to him. But whatever. So up next we had a teaser of Taya coming soon. I've heard good things about her, So looking forward to that, as she was in Lucha Underground before this. So, adding women to the roster is always a good thing. Up next, we had the Gredo farewell speech. This was a pretty good segment. The crowd seemed really behind it. So basically, he was thanking everyone and, saying he wasn't going to cry and that he goes over all the things that he misses. So after he goes through this, Laurel Van Ness comes out and she looked fantastic. Not like she normally looks, all disheveled and distressed. And she says she's a changed woman because of Gredo. And she gets down on one knee and asks Gredo to marry her. And of course, he says yes. The crowd goes crazy. Then Congo Khan comes out and he gets cut off by Shera. So he didn't even make it to the ring. And he basically just saw him, turned around, and went to the back. Next, we had Eddie Edwards and Jim Cornette having a conversation where he talks about the first time he met Eddie in Ring of Honor. And he's really sorry about the number that he drew. And he said that him and Anthem would be very happy, though, to have him as their heavyweight champion. So later on, we find out that Eddie Edwards drew number 2, which is now number 1 because he switched with Eli Drake. Next, we have a LAX Clubhouse segment where Konnan was basically telling Low-Ki to win the tournament tonight. Sorry, to win the Gauntlet tonight. Up next, we had the Gauntlet for the Gold. So, like I said, there was only one match beside this, and I guess it's just because the layout of this show, and this was the main attraction, because I think this started about the 9 o'clock, so it was an hour-long thing. So it makes sense that they used this as one giant match and had the other match. Meanwhile, they had segments throughout the night. But yeah, this was a fun match. We got the debut of Johnny Impact, to which he was facing off with EC3 for a little while, and EC3 screamed at him, telling him that Johnny Impact was a stupid name, which he's not wrong. I don't know why they went with this name, but as long as he stays with them, I think there's good things to come in the future. He got a really good crowd reaction, which isn't a surprise because he is a well-known name since he was with Lucha Underground and WWE, AAA. I believe he's a AAA champion still. And so we got to the final 2, and it turned out to be Eli Drake and Eddie Edwards. So they had a quick little match. Probably was about 5 minutes long. The finish saw Edwards going for a crossbody from the top rope, but Drake rolls through with it. He picks Edwards up and hits him with the Eli drop for the win. So Eddie Edwards is now your new champion. Bobby Lashley had gotten eliminated a little while ago, and he was standing outside next to America Top Team. And after the match ended, they ended up choking out the referee again. So, interested to see where this goes. It was a decent show overall. Like I said, there were so many backstage segments, and I don't know if this is just getting Cornette introduced and getting everybody familiar with him. I mean, his intensity with every segment is always good, and he is a nut job, so that always adds an interesting factor to it. We also got news earlier in the week that Tyrus had left the company, and there was also news that came up a day or two ago, I believe, that apparently Low-Ki has also left the company. I'm not 100% sure if that's true, but to be honest, his history with Jim Cornette isn't that great. I believe Cornette had called him one of the dumbest wrestlers. Don't quote me on that, but it was something along those lines. So I think that's a key piece to lose here. I mean, I know Low-Ki seems to be one of those guys that jumps back and forth through the companies, so we'll see. So I think it was before Destination X, D'Angelo had left the company, and I really like the dynamic of Josh Matthews and Jeremy Borash. They seem to do a good job together and work off of each other well. I think D'Angelo was kind of the odd man out. I'm not a real fan of the 3-man announce team. But I know WWE seems to be very strong with that, so whatever. But yeah, overall a decent show. So if you like what you've seen here, please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.